What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, getting down with Fresh Out. You know how we do it over here. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, man. Share the channel. Let's blow this thing up. Go to freshoutseries.com, pick you up some merch, represent, and hey, it's going down. I got my man here, True Lanes Ways. Come all the way from Oakland. You know, I got a relationship with the Bay Area. I haven't went to school in the Bay. We about to get into it because the Bay is hot. You know how it is. True Lanes, what was it like, man, you know, growing up in the Bay Area for those who don't know? I mean, you know, people know about Mac Dre, E40, Too Short, the Loonies, you know, it's a lot of culture in the Bay, you know. What you know, describe what it was like during the time you grew up there in Oakland, man.
Man, when I grew up in Oakland, man, it was like the 80s, you know what I mean? I'm one of those, I guess you could call it an 80s baby. And that was right around the time that crack came in, that, you know, that drugs was implemented into our communities. However it got there, it's a lot of theories of that. But all we really had was like a couple professional teams, the A's, the Warriors, the Raiders, before they went to LA and came back. And then things changed, though, because I start seeing more people being impoverished. So I come from a two-parent household. My parents weren't struggling. We had everything we needed, but the guys I went to school with, they didn't have nothing. So they would come to my house after school just to eat. That was an issue to me at about 8, 9 years old, but I didn't think much of it. And then you start seeing people running around Oakland about 17, 18, up to 20 years old, look like they balling out of control. They riding in Granadas, Mustangs, Cougars, Fox Chevys. So it's looking like, what do? They have money with no job. These people are starving and struggling. My parents work every day and we're making it, but something's off here. So once I got into figuring things out, going hanging out at the car wash, the liquor store, the wash house, I started seeing exactly what I needed to see, that the drugs were taking over our community. So either I was going to be a victim of it, a non-participant, or I would just be a person that would, I guess, assist those that were doing it some way in some form. So what had happened was one of my friends, he was struggling. They didn't have food at the house. We were hanging at that car wash, man. We asked the guy to put us on. He's like, nah, man, y'all too young. I don't want to see y'all doing this, man. But one thing led to another. We ended up getting a little double up. From there, everything changed my life forever, man. I started hustling, man. And, you know, I always rationalized, like, we knew it was wrong, but we knew people got paid. You had 17-year-old millionaires in my city, 19-year-old multimillionaires, man. I don't even want to say names and to protect the innocent. However, I'm like, wait a minute, these guys can do this and get money. I want a piece of it. But I didn't know the consequences. I didn't know the exact consequences of it, which I ended up suffering later in life by continuing doing the same thing. But what ended up happening was, so we got with the older dudes, which is the OG. He put us on, and we were in the game ourselves. I was in it, hustling every day, hiding it from my parents. They eventually found out. I got thrown out the house, and then after that point, I was living in the streets.
How old were you then?
I got threw out of my parents' house about like 13, 14.
Damn.
And started living in they call them trap houses now, but we called them rock houses back then. They had everything going on there: prostitution, drug dealing, drug processing, manufacturing, weapon manufacturing. I mean, everything was going on in one house. So
yeah.
Now I'm not living with my parents to living in a rock house. And I mean, that changed my life forever, man. I think it desensitized me on a lot of shit, man. I mean, when you from a community, right, that you know somebody that got murdered, you know the murderer, and nobody's saying nothing. So you're running around the community living amongst murderers, right? Nobody's coming to save you. So I needed my own weapon. Everybody I knew had a weapon, and we just had to protect ourselves because we had no faith in the cops.
You know, one of the things I talk often with a friend of mine I grew up with is, you know, we knew it was wrong, but we also seen the economic side of it. But having been exposed to that at such a young age, as a person reflecting back now, it's like I look at what's going on and a lot of the politics stuff, dude. You know, I'm glad that I saw that because I realized it ain't all black and white. You know, they try to make everything like, oh, America's so clean and this and that. And we, you know, they say, oh, you know, Mexico's, you know, corrupt, or Venezuela's corrupt, or this country corrupt. I mean, dude, we see this shit right here, but everybody just wears suits. Yeah. And they control the media. So, you know, I realized back then, like you said, people working hard and and they're going to a job every day, but yet they feel like they can't even enjoy life. And I see this cat over here, like you said, in the Cutlass on Zenith and Vogues, or old school Tornado, or you're like, damn man, what is he doing? And it intrigues you. So when I always tell these young people and my stories, and to let them know, like, hey, I'm not a square, but I'm just trying to tell you as a young person how I perceive things, and maybe you could see things a little bit differently. For a young person growing up in those environments, seeing that, even though they have maybe a foundation at home, what could you do, or what could you show them to maybe get them going a different direction when you have all that? Because people always say, well, Big Herc, man, in those communities, man, they're looking for opportunities. People are trying to see this is what's there in front of them. What would you say could have been maybe a determining factor that could have maybe swayed you in a different direction? Or do you think like the way it's by design is almost inevitable that so many people are going to get caught up in that game?
Well, for me, my thing was this. So the social disparities, right? Middle class household lives 4 blocks away from an impoverished household. They're on welfare, government assistance. We have, my parents both had jobs. We had everything we needed, but that gap is so huge. Now, there was jobs, there was training programs, but you will just be surviving. Same thing with hustling. Most people I know that start hustling were only hustling for survival. That's why 95% of people hustling never made it to a kilo. Did you ever think about that?
I know.
Only 5% of hustlers make it up to high level because they're not supposed to be there. So everything was programming like, okay, I'm gonna have to sell drugs just to get by, because if I get a job to get by at McDonald's, I'm gonna still starve and struggle. But what probably could have been done was just, I don't want to say more resources, training programs would have worked. Somebody actually coming in there in masses to show us a different look, because after you see a police officer, I don't want to be like him. Firefighter, you might die in a line of duty. Okay, I'll be a doctor. Wait a minute, but I have to go to school for 25 years to go make money and then never really get ahead on that either. So the thing is, I got in the game personally, and I can speak for me only, is my goal was to get a key. And then my goal was to get 100K. If I get 100K, my life will change and I'll never look back, but that's never the case. So the best thing to do for me is just not get into it. And I don't even want to say follow the straight and narrow and go to school, but get around people you want to be like. Because had I traveled to Roseville, Danville, Brentwood, Black Hawk, and only been surrounded by those people, my mentality would have been different. All I would have saw was people being successful from creating businesses, brands, creating their own destiny. So I just think what I was surrounded with, it forced my hand. It kind of forced my hand because I actually thought I was going in there to help other guys get ahead. Like, okay, my friend don't have money. Him and I will hustle together. We'll come up a couple thousand. He can buy food for his household, and then they won't struggle no more. My parents won't know, and we'll move like that. But it never goes according to plan.
No, I totally agree with you. I think your surrounding environment does greatly impact your views and the way you process information and what you visualize your potential to be. Mm-hmm. And I know for me, one of the biggest things that kind of shaped my trajectory was when I moved from Sac to Huntington Beach, and I'm looking at kids out there with, parents that are CEOs, that are venture capitalists, they're doing things that I've never seen. Like, growing up in the hood, I'm not saying I grew up in the hood all my life. I lived on military base. I've seen a lot of military people, but I just felt like the military, I had a utmost respect for it, but I felt like there was more for me to go out there and do. Mm-hmm. And so I was always looking for something else. But back to the Huntington thing is that seeing that exposure and then realizing there's so much more out there, like, seeing somebody who's as an attorney,
yes,
doctor, real estate mogul, got businesses. I didn't know anything about an LLC in the hood or, I opened my first business as far as like a regular DBA in high school, but nobody in my family knew how to help me. I had to do all that stuff on my own. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I think that exposure is one of the greatest assets you can give a young person.
Yes.
And, because, at that age, I think when you go from, like you said, 13, when you got kicked, I started getting into the shit about 14, 15, because there's something that triggers in males, that we want to kind of branch out. You know what I mean? We want to find our identity, and we want to have our own money. We want to be able to talk to girls. I look at these kids now that don't have no game. I'm like, dude, we used to get game on 10. You on a 10 speed, you on whatever moped, you walking. You had to have a mouthpiece. So I tell dudes, we used to practice spit game. We go places and just, hey, go holler at that girl in the mall. And we have contests. Who can get the most numbers? Remember that back in the day? See who can get the most numbers at the mall.
Well, that created something in you to allow you to be able to talk to women and build character from being told no. Because we'll laugh at the person that got shot down, but as long as you keep trying, you will get a girl. See what I'm saying? So that goes in business, life, or anything else. Like, I remember, and I'll never forget, going to the Eastmont Mall, going to MB Mall, going over there to Hilltop Mall, just to talk to girls on the bus with like $20 to my name. But my confidence was there enough to go talk to every pretty girl I saw. Sometimes the ones that were not so pretty, but I just wanted to do it. But now, I mean, I think the, what do you call it, like being antisocial, I guess caught up in our own thoughts. People are so unapproachable. That's not even all that common no more. Like, had I not known you and I see you on the streets, all I would probably say to you is, what's up? Because I don't know what you own. But you're not even a threat. And if I talk to you, I probably would find a valuable resource. Back then, you had to speak to the dudes that were above you, or you show respect. If you don't, it's almost you know what I mean? Looked at as a sign as disrespect. But nowadays, that's almost not present.
Well, too, like you said, catching the bus. I remember, catching the bus to go places, and you see a girl and you go talk to her, and it's like it was a contest to get her number. But even, being able to be confident in your person, like you go out somewhere, and if you weren't sharp, they start capping on you. Oh, you got the holes. Look at that, a hole in your pants. I mean, dude, you had to be, and it wasn't like. It wasn't fun, so people like, bullying. There was no bullying. We didn't have no bullying growing up, man. You would be literally, I seen people get capped on the bus ride all the way to Frisco, all the way back. You like, damn, he's still capping.
Right.
And then you be trying to get your caps down, writing them down. You know what I mean? Have your caps ready the next day, your mama jokes. I mean, this is what you did, and it was a respect thing. Because even if I remember, if you capped against like a older kid and you made everybody laugh, they're the respecting, so he couldn't even touch you because he's like, hey man, no, he got you.
He got you.
You got to respect it. And they're like, you right? Because that was the game, though. And if you know how to talk shit, that was an asset.
It definitely was. Talking was an asset, and in them communities, you gonna learn how to talk to some girls, man. You definitely gonna learn, because look, we didn't hear a lot of the stuff that we hear now back then at all. Every young man had to go get at some girls.
That's right.
All my homies had to go get at some girls. Started at about 9, 10 years old. Come on, boy, we want to just come with us and watch us. Like you said, they come get some game. Watch me move, and then sit on the house phone and talk to these girls and try to see, what it leads to from there. But I mean, growing up, you said a person getting capped on for not having it. That, even though they might not have said nothing about it, they felt a way. Because some of my friends that were like that, they would come to my house to borrow clothes because they got capped on the whole bus ride. Like, bro, let me get a pair of your pants, man, because I'm not getting no school clothes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that kind of, as we get 12, it's like, damn, man, something's wrong with this.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with this, man. We struggling, man, but what do we do next? Like, what do we do next, man? Because, I mean, it didn't make sense, man. It didn't make sense at all to me.
And, the drug game, I mean, I look at, like, how it affected, like, families, not just doing time. I never thought about, like, how it impacted, like, my little sister, how she looked up to me and how she felt. Because, I just thought about myself. I'm out here getting money. I'm trying to hustle. I'm like you, when I started, first selling drugs, my goal was to get some money to invest actually in the stock market. I had a teacher who had one of those old brick phones, and in class he used to call up the stockbroker and he would do trades in class, in trigonometry class, and I'm like, damn, man, and I'm thinking, that would be something I'd be interested in doing. And then I seen that movie Wall Street.
Oh yeah.
And I'm with Gordon Gekko, and I'm like, damn, I want to be like Gordon Gekko, But nobody around me thought like that big. People were like, I'd watch Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous. I always wanted nice shit. I couldn't be one of those dudes like, and I see little things. I'm like, damn, why well, I was like, man, why can't we drive a Lotus or a Rolls Royce or, have this? And why can't we travel to these exotic places on a boat? So my whole thing is I didn't know how to do it as far as how I was going to get to that end game. But I thought like the dope game was initially a stepping stone, and also, I would get more credibility with the women, because I was like, I don't know how whether your school, but literally, you're a freshman, whatever, sophomore, and these girls, some of them got beers. They've been out of school, and they come up there and drops with Dayton's on an Elko, and they taking all the girls. So you're like, damn, man, I gotta step my game up, and then. It seems like almost being a drug dealer. Well, I mean, you didn't want to be a drug dealer, but if that name, if that connotation got related to you, oh, True Lane, he's a D-boy. Oh, you're a D-boy. Now a girl looked at you different. Hey, you're True, you're a D-boy?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like it was like a false sense of, I guess, confidence when you got a D-boy title.
Yeah, because people had more. You said the drop tops. I went to high school in Oakland called Castlemont High. These guys were coming there in Sterlings, Acura Legends.
Oh, they were clowning.
Oh man, BMW 3 Series and Saabs.
In high school.
No, the ones that just left the high school.
Yeah.
The older guys. So we had no action. Yeah. We had no more action.
Yeah,
man.
Peugeots,
I'm looking all like, damn, man, I liked it, that girl, the light skinned one with the baby hair. I liked the one, right? But this dude picking her up in an old school Chevy on Dayton's and Vogues. I'm like, damn, with the 15s in the trunk, right? So by high school, though, 10th grade, I was full-fledged, though, because I was like, enough is enough, man. Like my mom and dad work. I only get $20 a week. That's not enough. That's not going to get me there. Yeah. So since that's all I saw that was successful, I took the route full-fledged. My friends that were only doing it for survival, I started separating myself from them. So by 15 years old, I made my first 30, 40,000.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? But also, I caught my first case and got sent to juvenile. I was supposed to go to YA, but I got a lawyer. My lawyer wanted about $5,000. I gave him a $2,500 deposit, and he ended up getting me a boys' home. It was possession for sales, right? And they caught me with a bunch of it and money, so I couldn't say I was using. So what happened was I had called a guy from juvenile hall, and he gave me this lawyer's number, and I had my brother take him the $2,500 deposit. And he's like, well, the thing is, you're going to do some time, but you're not going to youth authority. We're going to send you to an out-of-the-area boys' home. You do that, you come back, and you start over, man. So I don't think that taught me a lesson, though.
Okay.
Because I had money when I came back, enough money to reposition myself in the weed game. Okay, I don't want to sell dope no more, but I want to sell weed. You know what I mean? And I think I was telling Sinister earlier, you go get some weed, you could sell joints all day, man, and really just sell 100 joints a day for in between $2 and $4. You go home with a bankroll.
Yeah.
And it's all ones and fives. It look about that big, like a meatloaf, man. So I started doing that.
Yeah.
And then I also start kind of growing enough to get weight and help other guys get on with ounces and stuff like that. So, I mean, like, I was lost. My parents couldn't tell me nothing. I couldn't live at their house no more. They threw me out. Like, my father, blue-collar worker, he actually worked in law enforcement, right? And he's like, I'm not going to lose my house, and you're not going to destroy my family. You got to go. My mom tries to save me, like, no, don't put him out. Give him another chance. He like, get out of my way. He's out. I had little brothers. He's like, you're not going to ruin my household. I'm a man. It can't be two of us. He took my. He tried to take my pager and all the money I made from hustling, and that was the stipulation. Give me all your money, give me your pager, or get out.
Yeah, you're like.
I'm like, nah, I didn't work hard for this. I'm out.
Oh, that's a cool game.
I had a few thousand at that age, 13, going into 14. I had a few thousand, like 7 to 10K already, at that age.
Yeah, you had more than most adults.
Yeah, but I couldn't see myself giving it up. But I brought that up to say that I went with what I saw. Had I not saw that, had I saw people knowing about businesses and LLCs then, or even just like, say, for instance, just starting a lawn service legitimately, not knocking on doors, cutting people grass, but legitimately, I probably would have went that route. I probably would have started.
You make a great point, and not to like endorse like young kids out there selling drugs, but I remember somebody saying, it's like, dude, instead of like you old heads, because remember back then the old heads used to be like, oh, you guys need to be locked up. It's like, why not, you guys need to flip that into something legit. You take that money, I don't want you to get locked up, but I'd rather see you open up a car lot, open up your own little plumbing service, or maybe your detail shop, or, there's a lot of things you can do. But like you said, a lot of these guys, they make the money and then they don't know how to funnel it, because people don't understand, I don't know if they understand or don't understand, but don't know this country was founded on drug dealers.
It was.
John Hopkins, opium dealer. Cecil Rhodes, opium dealer. All these knights and so-called people of royalty, they were all drug dealers.
Cutthroat, yep.
They had the Dutch, I forgot what it's called, the Dutch something company, but they were manufacturing cocaine in Denmark, and then basically exporting it all over the world. But even going back before that, when you had the war, the whole thing, how Britain got China or Hong Kong, was because that was a deal in the opium wars. Remember, they flooded their country, and that's why China's like, dude, they said no more tolerance for drugs, because they knew how it affected their people.
It did.
So they knew the power of how drugs can affect the culture. And that same plan is nothing new. So when you look at like what they did with China, what they did with the heroin in the communities, what they did with the crack, what they did with the methamphetamine, and now with the fentanyl.
Wow.
So it's the same cycle where you don't have to even use a gun. All I got to do is I can give you everything you need and let you guys kill each other. I remember somebody said that, they were talking about, the Klan, white supremacy, and somebody said, well, dude, they don't have to do nothing. All they do is drop off a train load of guns and put some drugs in the neighborhood, and you guys are going to do the job.
Which, when I was a child, in between 15 and 16-year-old, mysteriously, trains that's driving through Richmond got hit for a container full of guns. And then it happened again a couple of years later. Was that an accident, or did that happen on purpose? How the hell it just happens to stop in a ghetto, urban community, whatever you want to call it, and it's 3,000 guns now on the streets in the hands of people that don't really have much education, that don't really have a plan, they don't run armies, but what they did is created their own crews, and they started their own small armies. And if anybody opposed them, we'll get them, because they had AK-47s, they had they had everything that you could want. But these are people all under 25 years old.
That's right.
You give a bunch of people guns without a plan. I mean, you didn't think they were going to kill each other? What did you think they were going to do?
You take the guns, you take the use of drugs, and then you take the disproportionate placement of liquor stores.
Yeah.
So you have alcoholism. So you have depression. You have people dealing with society, alcoholism. You got the guns. You got the drugs. People, for territory. And like for those who don't know, in the Bay Area, you guys got like turfs.
Yes.
I mean, it ain't no Bloods and Crips in the Bay Area. It's turfs. Richmond, and you got Vallejo. You got Oakland, and Oakland's divided up. Then you got Frisco. You got all these different areas, and it ain't no joke out there, man. So you got all this money being made. And I remember talking to dudes, and he's like, dude, this dude was generating $1 million a month out of the projects. And when you have people who are, in the system, and they look at it, they get mad, like, this dude with no education was making $1 million a month.
Oh, yeah.
Give them life. They get mad because they are so like, how'd you do it? So you take that same mentality. If that guy was able to take that and flip it into something else, these dudes they could literally, which, one of the things I look at now, if those guys, imagine if they would have got funded somebody to get into politics for them.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody to get on the police force, chief of police. See what I'm saying? Like when you look at like Italians, remember how they used to do, someone's going to be a lawyer, so-and-so's going to be a doctor, so-and-so's going to go in law enforcement, so-and-so's going to military. You got to funnel people into places so they look out for you.
Oh, yeah.
Because if your uncle is a politician and then you got an auntie who's a senator, you see how California's doing it right now. What's going on with Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom? They're all,
oh, yeah.
It's all family affairs.
It's a buddy-buddy system.
Buddy-buddy system, man.
That buddy-buddy system works for them. However, if we didn't adopt it, we kind of just dropped the ball. You're right. It was so much money generated from illicit activities that we could have built our own, rebuilt our community. We rebuilt our own community. We put our own city council members in place. And then we shift that drugs out.
That's right.
Now the drugs are out.
That's
There's jobs being created.
That's right.
We buying our own real estate because now the Hispanics and then even the white people are coming back into Oakland, buying it back when they left in the 70s
That's
and
right.
the 80s, but they're back in there, and it's all so inflated prices that the average people who grew up there can't afford to be there anymore.
Yeah, it's all being gentrified now because they once you sold your mama's house or some of them little spots in Frisco, which you guys might have been living there for 50 years, you come back down, it's $1.2 million for a teardown.
Yes.
And it's only 1,200 square feet.
Tear down, you right.
Straight teardown, 1.2. And it's like you're looking like, yeah, man, and it's so they basically and now you got to go live way out somewhere else, but you can never come back there because it's out of your price range. So it's like I don't know. I look at this whole game and how it's played and how I got caught up. And you're a very intelligent, articulate person, and how at a young age, and you had both parents in there, and I would imagine by having at least your father telling you something later on that kind of like gave you a point of reflection.
Oh, it definitely did, because my parents now, they're still married, 75 years old, been married for 50 years.
Wow, congrats.
They did things according to the plan that they had when they came from Mississippi. They're millionaires, but they made it clear, you don't get anything from us unless you show me you can go get your own. We'll give this to charity, or we'll take it back to Mississippi and buy more cotton fields and more soybean fields. But until you show us you can create your own, you get nothing. So my mentality was, I'm not getting nothing. I better go get my own, but I chose the streets, which was a disservice to me. I think I told you before the interview, I ended up getting 12 years in the state prison and 7 years in federal prison. I did 2/3 of that time, almost 13 years pretty much, just to get out and be starting from the place that I started from, which I could have jumped over that had I known different. I'm not going to say known better, but known different. I made my first $1 million at about 22 years old, gave it all back. Gave it all back. It made no sense. I mean, I was able to spend some, but when I got caught, it went bad. It just went downhill, and I'm looking stupid, feeling stupid, people teasing me, not necessarily teasing me, but referencing like, whoa, you thought you were so great when you was on top. What you gonna do now? What are you gonna do now? So I had to think long and hard, how can I get back to a position where I was? Because it's like, you'd rather never give a bear honey than give it to him and tell him he can't have it no more.
Yeah.
So once I had the money and I knew what it felt like, I was determined to get it again. So when I got out of state prison, I immediately went back and started doing things to get back to the money. But now, since I was on the radar already, I was under federal investigation, and then that ruined it forever, which took me out the game permanently, and I completely transitioned and started doing the things that I do today. But my exposure was only people in my community that's millionaires, they're hustlers. They're not police officers. They're not firemen. They're not doctors. They are hustling. They having it. I'm talking about that $1 million a month story. That was the story that we all walked to school talking about.
That's right. That's right.
Like, man, these guys got 40 workers. They got girls working topless in there processing that shit. You know what I mean? So I was intrigued by it and wanted to know more, although we were told, stay away from drugs, stay away from drug dealers, stay in school, don't go to this side of town, don't go over there. But our whole community had got taken over by that, and I do not believe it was by accident, like you said. It was not by accident at all.
No, it definitely wasn't by accident. And then you look at like the blueprint. There's nothing new under the sun as far as how some of these other communities, prominent black communities, how they had the wealth and were able to keep that within themselves, whether it's Black Wall Street or Harlem, some of these, back in the 20s and 30s, and you look at the amount of money that was there and how black people carried themselves. You don't see a lot of that imagery now unless you look on IG and search for it. But when you look at how the sense of pride, how we were, you dress sharp, you have a sense of like, okay, the way you carry yourself in public, your mannerism, and then what's being promoted now as far as us as a culture and how that's flipped. And I just think like, it's consensual on the people who are putting out the content because they want to get a bag, but you can easily get the same bag putting out a different message for our young youth, especially young black males, because literally, I mean, I was in Oakland. I mean, dude, it wasn't no joke. You get caught out of pocket, but we think about like how we are preying on each other, and it's like there's no accountability. You know, nobody wants to, say, hey, man, you guys out here in Chicago, you guys over here, we need to think about this. Community needs to come together. And, the OGs out there, really saying something. And, when I say something, people are like, oh, man, you're a black conservative now. You listen to Thomas Sowell, you're a sellout.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, because I'm saying, well, I'm black conservative, but I got a dope case, I got a home invasion case, and I got a robbery. And then I worked in it. So damn, how conservative? But I've lived a life, but I'm saying that there's other things out there. I'm not trying to tell you that I'm perfect, and I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, but what I'm saying is I don't like to see, these young people throw away all the potential because there's so much potential with these people that if you guys maybe were, some of these other guys who are around there, we can't help everybody, but if we as communities came back together and laced each other up, I think we could change a lot of the things that are going on in our neighborhoods.
I think we could change it. It has to start with somebody like, this is why I respect you so much and I love your platform, because there's so many idiots with a platform and there's so many nobodies with the amplified voice, right? They're on there they're doing everything they do for views, but not giving much value. They'll take some story about Chicago, about Oakland, even though it's happening and people need to be aware, but you could use your same platform to show people a better way. That will be more impactful, but they won't do it because, again, as long as you keep people thrown off, they'll never get ahead. Why is it that Chinese people can't watch the same TikTok that we watch? Because they're not learning from it. See what I'm saying? And we all have choices to go choose what content we consume. However, but what's in your face the most is what you might gravitate to. Drugs and crime was in my face, crammed down my throat almost. Yeah, I could have went to college. Yeah, I could have, worked my way up the corporate ladder, eventually becoming successful. But I saw a way to make a quick 100K. I chose that route. But now today, if you turn on the news, you will not get a good story. You will not. Yeah. It's just going to tell you how much failure and how much poverty is going on, man. I mean, I live in Oakland still, right? And it's not the best city compared to what it used to be. However, there's great things about it, but they won't talk about it. Nobody's talking about this city that's still great and it's cultured and people can come here and succeed. You still have big tech companies there. You still have people in this economy that can change around, but it starts with somebody. We can't talk about the problem. We have to focus on the solution. And I'm telling guys this, but then they'd be like, well, look at you. You capitalize off of your community and you help contribute to the downfall of this community by dealing drugs. I did that. I paid my debt to society. What is prison? It's a place you go to pay your debt to society. I did that. You still gonna crucify me for that? Yeah. You still gonna hold that against me, man? And I'm ready to still help in any capacity that I can. I don't want to just talk about the problem. I only want to focus on solutions. And that's what everything I do in life, man.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We're gonna get into it on some more topics, man. You guys make sure you hit that like button, share this channel. Big Herc 916 getting down fresh out, and True Lane Waves.